A strength-based approach can be used in many different situations or settings. In the context of child protection work, it provides the opportunity to view children and their families as having potential as opposed to just being at risk. The aim is to take a collaborative approach to understanding what we're worried about based on information, observations, feelings and experiences, what's going well, and what strengths, assets or resources are available around the child and family, including their personal or internal resources, family, social, organisational or professional, and community resources. Once the strengths that have been available in the past, or are now, have been identified, they can be used, replicated or developed to construct solutions and plans that are achievable and realistic. The approach assumes that the person requiring support has expert knowledge about their own circumstances and strengths, and uses open and strength-focused questions to help people reveal their present options, future possibilities, and exceptions to their current difficulties. Using skills like reflective listening, affirming statements, and empathy help to keep the conversation authentic and collaborative. This creates the conditions for optimism, self-awareness, resilience, and motivation. In the following film, the social worker and parent work together to try to understand the nature of the family situation.
So perhaps you could talk to me a little bit about what you're worried about at the moment.
Well, it's everything really, but I think the biggest thing is the house.
So perhaps you could talk to me about when your housing was okay and what that looks like and what that felt like.
I think I can remember before coming to live with Mum when it was just, well, it's before the twins were born, and it was so nice because I actually got to decide when to have tea, and I could choose what to cook for the kids. So like James and Rosie they were so happy, and the best thing about it was just feeling like it was me deciding these things. I just felt so much more like I was in control of bringing them up and looking after them.
So you find it a bit easier to cope, is it fair to say, when you feel like you have a bit more control about those daily tasks, those things about when you do them and how? Okay. So what else was it that made you feel better before, when you were parenting and you were in your own house, and what things contributed to that?
Well, we had this where we used to live, we had this little park and it was really close, so we would go down after school most days, and it was really nice just to see them playing, and I would get to, I would be pushing Rosie on the swing and then James would be on the little roundabout, and it was so lovely because it felt like they were having a nice time, and it was just good to see them enjoying themselves. And I might see another mum down there and then we could have a little chat, but I don't feel like I could get out at the moment.
So making the time to enjoy being a parent, to enjoy spending time with your children, is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like that.
So what else about in the community? So let's think about what community resources there are. Is there anything that you had before that you don't have now, or what was going well for you in terms of your community before?
Well, I suppose the school have always been good. The school have really helped me. I mean, when I was worried about Rosie, I'm still worried about Rosie a bit now, but it's good to have a school because the teacher will actually make time to talk to you, and it's on the playground. I mean, I don't go up anymore, but when I used to go up on the playground, it's good to talk to the other mums, and we even had like we had a coffee morning once at the school, and that was lovely.
So at the moment, because you're not managing to get up there to drop off or collect Rosie, then it's a bit trickier to actually make that connection with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I do miss that actually.
Okay. So think to a time when things were going really, really well for you. And what was happening at that point in time? You know, the children were going to school, you were managing to cope.
Yeah.
What was it about that time that particularly stands out for you as helping you?
It's hard. I think I felt happy, and I just don't feel happy at the moment. That's probably the biggest thing. But I mean, what sort of thing? I don't know.
Well, let's think about you. How I understand it's difficult because you're not feeling particularly happy right now. But thinking about yourself, what was it about yourself then that made it easier, that made you feel happier? What was it within yourself that made it that much easier?
I suppose I thought I was doing a good job. I mean, I think I try and remind myself that I love my kids, and that's the most important thing. But with everything else going on at the moment, I don't know, I just feel helpless.
So it feels a little bit to me like perhaps a bit of self-confidence in terms of recognising that at times you can be a good parent, other times it's tricky, and that's one of those times now, but that actually you can be a good parent. And also I think it comes back to enjoying being a parent, like you were talking about a minute ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to think about the twins for a minute and their development. They've seen the paediatrician. What did the paediatrician say?
Well, she was saying that they're a bit behind, but I was trying to explain that it's not. I don't think they're behind. I think it's a family thing. We, like James and Rosie were both like it, so.
So what was it that made Rosie meet those milestones? Because obviously eventually she did. You're saying she was a bit behind like Jade and Charlie are. But what was it that made her meet those?
I think it was, I don't know, I always got out more with those two because I had a more stable home life. Because I wasn't with Mum. I was in the house. I mean, Dell was around, but yeah, less said about him the better. But at least it was, I suppose it's, continuity. Like it was always the same. So we had a pattern and we had things that we would do, like going to the park, like I was saying. And it just feels like chaos at the moment. I don't feel like I've got that for the twins.
So it feels like potentially with Rosie when she was younger, the things that might have been going well might have been that you had a routine.
Yeah.
And that you were stimulating her, so you were getting her out, you were taking her to places.
Yeah.
Showing her things.
Because I used to sort of cuddle up with her on the sofa and we'd read together and that sort of thing. And I don't know, I can't face it at the moment.
But those things helped Rosie meet those milestones that you were worried about when she was little. So now we need to start thinking about how we can replicate that so that Jade and Charlie can start meeting their milestones as well.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Scaling is an important tool in a strength-based approach. Used correctly, scaling accomplishes 4 main things. It puts a boundary around the issue so it feels less uncontrollable and more manageable. This can allow optimism and motivation to establish. It helps to engage the problem-solving brain and loosens the grip of the emotional brain. This can allow people to observe the issue more objectively without becoming emotionally overwhelmed. It provides a way of breaking down expectations into bite-sized, discrete steps, making planning more realistic and achievable. Where there are very serious concerns about a child, scaling can provide clarity and balance around the safety and risk levels. It offers a clear point from which to measure and recognise change. Families report that scaling feels clearer and fairer than more traditional methods of planning and assessment. Scaling can be used very effectively in many different settings. For the purposes of Devon's strength-based approach to child protection, our scale will run from 0 to 10, with 0 being complete safety and 10 being the most dangerous situation possible. Each individual worry is scaled, taking into account the seriousness of the risk and the potential of the strengths to increase safety. Whilst the number is important as a measurement of safety or risk, the most important feature of scaling going forward is whether at subsequent points of measurement, such as core groups and reviews, the scale is moving in the right direction.
Now what we do is we look at each individual concern or worry and we scale it from 0 to 10. So 0 would be that things are amazing and better than they could possibly ever imagine being.
Yeah,
and that you know, and this is what we have to do. That's what we aim for. And 10 is obviously, you know, things can't get much worse and actually things are pretty bad. So thinking about, we've talked about the housing situation and thinking about where you might think you are in terms of how bad that is. Bearing in mind that there's sort of two parts to it, isn't there? There's the part about the overcrowding and this isn't an ideal situation.
It's not at all.
And then there's the other part about the condition of the home and the dog feces and things like that are sort of go alongside that really. But when we look at the things together and we think, okay, 10 is as bad as it can get and 0 is you know, you're living in a big nice lovely house, you know, and everything's clean and tidy all the time.
Well, I suppose it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I was putting a number on it, because of how on top of each other we are all the time, I think I'd probably put a 6.
Okay. So when you look at the worry about the housing and then we balance that with what's going well, I'll be honest, I think it's a little bit higher than that. And what pushes it higher for me is the dog feces, because that then becomes a real physical health concern that worries me.
Yeah, I think just sometimes you don't notice it, and I think you're not the first person to say that. So it might be a bigger deal than I want to really accept, maybe.
Okay. So I'm feeling it's more an 8.
Okay.
So when we think about the twins and their development, and again on the same basis that 10 would be we're really, really worried that they're not doing any of the things they should be, and 0 is actually they're exceeding what we would hope they would, and they're tottering around and doing all the things that we would expect them to do in a couple of months. Where do you feel like that would sit on the scaling?
Well, I suppose if the dog messes up with a sort of 8, then I've got to be honest, I mean, they're not where they should be, so I suppose that would be a sort of a 6 or a 7 as well. Probably a 7.
Okay. It's interesting because I think about a 6 actually.
Okay.
I think, you know, at 10 months old, they're not quite doing the things that they should be. But we've talked a little bit, haven't we, about how you got Rosie through that stage. So thinking about, okay, let's put it at a 6. Let's say about a 6.
Okay.
So the whole point of us doing the scaling is that we look at how we can bring that down. So
Okay, that's good.
let's think about if we were going to aim for, focusing on the twins' development, if we were going to aim for a 5, say, What do you think we need to do to achieve that? Just to the 5, you know, the ideal is we get to a 0 or probably a, you know, 1, maybe a 2. But let's do it in small bite-sized pieces. So let's say 5. What do we need to achieve? What do we need to do?
I think because I do love them, but I think I just need to spend more time with them.
Okay.
Because at the moment it's, you know, James is looking after Rosie, or he's looking in on them. My mum's looking in on them. And because of how I've been feeling, I mean, you always feel as a mum you can do more. But I think I could spend more time actually, you know, talking to them and stuff. Because it's talking to them that, I mean, I remember with Rosie, talking to her, actually getting a response back, getting them used to me again, because I feel like I haven't done it as much as I need to.
And that's great to hear you say that. So what we have to think about is how we achieve it. So I think the aim really needs to be that we're about a 2, I think, in order for us to stop thinking about child protection. Is that okay?
Yeah.